Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Nehemiah chapter 11 and John chapter 4. Now, I'm sitting here down at the beach and you can see this massive ship on the ocean. Every time I look at these boats, and they come past all the time, I wonder what must it be like to be out there in the Atlantic or in the Pacific, and it's just you and your little vessel in this massive ocean. The pioneering spirit that is needed to go and travel and go and settle in places that are not your home. Incredible. This particular chapter, Jerusalem is finished, the wall is finished, but it's like a ghost town. And Nehemiah and the people decide, listen, we've got to fill Jerusalem. This is God's plan. And so the leaders volunteer to go in. In addition to that, they set up a lottery system, and 1 in 10 Israelites agrees to go in. Now, just think about this. These guys are going to be sitting ducks if Israel is targeted. That is where the enemy is going to go. So they're prepared to be targets. In addition to that, the city's broken. I mean, this thing hasn't worked for 70 years. All the problems that are involved in a broken city. In addition to that, they've left their farmlands, they've left their hometown. They have to get a new way of earning money. They've got to leave their friends and their social structures at home. This is real pioneering work. And so what this chapter does, it lists the names of these great pioneers who go and leave their families and leave their livelihoods and go and settle in Jerusalem. Now, I don't know about you, but we've all been designed by God to live extraordinary lives. And when opportunities present themselves to pioneer, I think there's like the urging of heaven. Come on, this is the instruction given to Adam, wasn't it? You go into all the world and you multiply and you subdue it. When he gave his commission to his disciples, he said, go into all the world, make disciples of all nations. There is a pioneer in the heart of every believer. And this book pulls that out of us. Now, let's go to John chapter 4. Now, John chapter 4 is probably the text that I've preached more sermons out of than any other chapter in the whole Bible. It's Jesus in a Samaritan village. These are the people that are hostile toward the Jews. And Jesus is at Jacob's well there. A woman comes down to the well, and Jesus says to her, basically, can I have a drink? That's how Jesus engages this particular woman. He doesn't say, are you going to heaven? Are you going to hell when you die? Not that that's a bad question, but he says, can you please give me a drink? She is startled, and she says, why is a guy speaking to me? This is not socially correct. And a Jew with a Samaritan. Jesus said, if you knew who was talking to you, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. She says, what? Do you think you're better than our father Jacob? You've got nothing to draw water with. How are you going to get water out of this well? And he talks about the living water that he can give her. And so she says, well, listen, if I don't have to ever thirst again, I want this water. Give it to me. And he says to her, go fetch your husband. You see, what Jesus is doing is he's drawing a complete stranger into a conversation, and he's getting him to this particular point. She says, I haven't got a husband. He says, I know you. You've had 5. The guy that you shacked up with now, he's not your husband at all. Suddenly she sees she's talking to a prophet, and she starts getting nervous. So she says, listen, you Jews don't worship in Jerusalem. We up here on the mountain. Let's keep things separate. He says, listen, the time is coming when the worshippers who worship God are going to worship him in spirit and in truth, not in a mountain, not in a city. There's a different sort of worship coming. And she says, well, I'll tell you what, when the Messiah comes, he's going to tell us all this stuff. I don't really know all this stuff when the Messiah comes in. And this was the point of his conversation. This was the point of beginning a conversation saying, give me something to drink, please. For him to say to her, I who is speaking to you am he. He basically told her he was the Messiah. He hadn't told many people that. He said, I'm the Messiah. Anyway, she rushes into the village and she calls all her friends and says, could this be the Messiah? Come and see him. The disciples come back and they say, what are you doing? Talking to a woman. They're thinking that in their head. Here's some food. And they bring him the food that they had gone to fetch in the village. Remember, he had been tired. It was the middle of the day. It was exhausting. He hadn't eaten yet. So he says, no, I've had food to eat none of you know anything about. They say, could that woman have given him some food? He says, listen, my food is to do the will of the one who sent me. And he's basically saying the thing that energizes him, the thing that makes him full of life, full of purpose, is to pioneer into lands, into people that don't know him, and to bring the gospel and bring the good news of Jesus to them. I don't know about you, but for me, the church is the ultimate pioneer, and it's presenting the message of heaven to a world that is hostile to him. And basically, when we do that, it does something to us. We weren't made to sit in a corner and keep quiet. We were made to take the gospel to the ends of the earth.